Okay, well, welcome to the show and happy Friday. I'm Erica Lukes. Always happy to be here and spend my Friday evenings with people from all over the world that stay up late, like Jim, who is well up past his bedtime, and Phil Leach and Peter from Bogota, and just Simon, all of these wonderful people that get in here. And Ray Boucher popped in for a moment before the show started just to say he wishes that he could be here, but he couldn't this evening. I really just think the world of Ray, and I send him lots of love and prayers. I know he has been dealing with a lot, and he's just a great human being. I am really blessed to have so many wonderful people behind me, alongside me, supporting me in our endeavor to find the truth. And I know that sometimes it is really easy for a handful of people that really know nothing about me to take little sound bites and things that I have said and then create their own narrative. And I know that's a fun thing to do, and it really I guess it gives some people their kicks, but I hope that most of the people that listen to the show and people that are venturing into the world of UFOs understand that there are specific tactics that people use in online trolling and various things that we need to look at. And we need to step back when somebody's hiding behind anonymity and say, well, first of all, who are you? And second of all, what is your messaging? And third of all, why don't we go to your profile and see what you're actually promoting on your profile, because that is pretty telling sometimes. So I want to just encourage people to do that. And with that said, I want to say that what I'm saying on my show, these are my personal opinions, and that I stand by what I'm putting forward. I am entitled to change my opinion the more I learn about things. And I do this because I love the subject, because I care very deeply about the people who have witnessed things that they can't explain. And I care very, very deeply about preserving the history of the subject and supporting researchers and archivists who have made a great difference. And this is really, critical to me. I know for my regular followers, you know that I have an incredible archive here in Salt Lake City, thanks to the help of so many people. And I was busy scanning things today to be sent out to a specific researcher, and I look forward to doing that. If you have a collection and you're a researcher, please make sure, if you want to donate that you reach out to me. I have a wonderful facility here, a commercial space. I'm going to be working on getting a nonprofit status and moving things forward. And also there might be some other fun things on the front where we can really push research, historical preservation, all of these things forward. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's a very positive thing. I also want to take a moment to address some of the things that have been said about me on social media. And as we know, there is a specific person that owns a ranch. And over the past week, I've been called a slimy malcontent, and which was shocking. And it made me quite, sad that somebody would go to that level to try to define my character like that. And I would definitely say that perhaps people that are saying that I'm a slimy person and questioning my character should perhaps turn the mirror on themselves and look at some of the things that they have done in a very public way. And maybe they should hold themselves to the same standards they apparently hold other people to. I also want to just clear the record, because it has been the going theme here is I'm disgruntled because I did not get on a certain TV show. And I will say that I have the documents to back up that that is absolutely not the case, that I was the one that was approached. I would be more than happy to go into a court of law and disclose that information. I did sign an NDA, so I will not disclose that to the public, but I do have all of those documents. In 2017, I had no idea who any of these people were until I was approached. And let me also just say that if I was the type of person that, I mean, great, I love doing TV. It's fun. I have a background in vocal performance. I've been on stages performing to thousands of people. I like doing that. But if that was my main focus, I would have a talent agent. And, B, I wouldn't have a show on YouTube where I don't have 50,000 subscribers. That's not my main goal. My main goal is to have 10 people here that get it, that can get information out there, that can maybe form an opinion and learn from what I have put forward, because I've made a lot of mistakes and it has been all out there for you to see. And I acknowledge it, and I always will. And so, I just wanted to set that straight and put that out there. I have all the documents, so bring it on. So anyway, on that note, I want to add my guest for this evening, and he's been a guest on my show many times. I find Jack Brewer, I love talking to him. I really find the fact that he is such a diligent researcher, and he does the work behind the scenes. He does the FOIA requests. He makes sure that he's getting information before he goes out and publishes his blog post or writes a book. You can find him at ufotrailblogspot.com. He wrote most recently Wayward Sons, NICAP, and the IC. That's a great book. And also The Grays Have Been Framed, which is talking a lot about, and this is a must read for you guys, is talking about how we can use the UFO subject, how people use the UFO subject to exploit people and things. And so I really admired that. And so, Jack, welcome to the show again. This is going to be fun, as always.
Thank you, Erica. You're the ever gracious hostess, and I appreciate and value your respect and your props about my work. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to thank Simon for the super sticker in chat. And so thank you very much. And I want to welcome Leah to the show, and Steve. How's it going, Amy? And all of you guys, Matthew Wright, Michael Reynolds. I see some like really great new people in here, and I think that's in Doorbell. I'm super excited. So anyway, some new people, and welcome to the show. And I really respect the fact that everybody in chat is kind, considerate. They ask questions. They don't troll. And that's just kind of what we do here at UFO Classified. And I also just want to interrupt for a brief moment and thank Mario, who is always behind the scenes, silently supporting UFO Classified. He's done so for many years, and he is really the reason why UFO Classified is still on the air. You can, and I want to thank my Patreons as well. I have a handful of really wonderful people that donate monthly to the show, and you can go to ufoclassified.com to learn how to become a Patreon. And I appreciate that because I love doing this, even though sometimes I want to hide in the closet. Jack knows that. You know all about that. You've like totally, we've had conversations and things.
Oh, we all want to hide in the closet sometimes. That goes with the territory, I think. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it's an interesting subject. And like I said, you go through so many, like for me, it's, I was, and I mentioned this in so many shows, I was like so bright-eyed, and thank you, Scott, for the donation, but I was like so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I joined MUFON, and I'm like, yes, we're going to do this, and we're looking into UFO reports, and then as I, kind of learned a little bit more, that's when I had that, in my mind, kind of going through this process of, okay, wait a minute, this isn't what it seems. And this has been, and I know that people have asked or tried to start things on Twitter about how I just suddenly woke up one day and was the evildoer of, whatever. And that I'm a complete skeptic. And that's just simply not true. If you listen to my shows, I'm not skeptical, but I have learned a lot. I've researched a lot, as have you, Jack, and you understand that there's some interesting dynamics in the field, and there are people who use witnesses and people that want to learn more about the subject to manipulate their belief systems and to really take people for a ride. And I think that's our biggest thing that you and I are trying to do together, is to expose that, so we can have a quote unquote disclosure, so we can learn about the phenomenon. We're trying to do this to better the field, and we can't better the field unless some of these longstanding hoaxes, grifts are exposed, in my opinion. I mean, what do you feel about that?
I look at it a few ways. Thank you for asking. I think, like with Skinwalker in particular, uh, for those unaware, Erica has a much closer relationship with the property and the people that have been involved over the years than I do. I am more like, I think most people that might be listening or watching may be, in that I remember listening to Coast to Coast AM, sitting in my car back in the day, late at night, and it those of us that are old enough can remember that something just being on the radio gave it more credibility, and something being on television, being on the news. And that might be hard for people under a certain age to understand now, but there was a time where I'm like listening to these interviews on the radio, and I'm like, wow, they're saying this guy is like a colonel in the army, and he's been a CIA consultant, and he says this stuff is happening at the ranch. And it's like on a radio show that the guy is like a radio host conducting interviews of guests, and it seems to um have much more credibility in, say, 1988, 1990, 1995 than it would, of course, in hindsight. And I'm more than happy to wade out into the weeds and get into the nuance of the circumstances. I do. I like that's what my FOIA work is trying to take a specific assertion and saying, okay, they said this, that can actually be fact checked. Let's see what we come up with. But I think the overarching message here is, it's now been 37 years since or 27, I guess it is 27 years since George Knapp and Colm Kelleher published Hunt for the Skinwalker. In that 27 years, we are yet to have these people that are claiming to have conducted scientific investigation present anything that resembles a scientific product from a research project. And that goes all the way through to current circumstances and the current ownership and circumstances at the ranch. To me, there really are only a couple ways to look at that. And I think that there's a lot of variations to that. But when people claim to be doing scientific investigation, yet by definition, they are not producing things that would make it scientific investigation, we can either assume they're incompetent and don't know that they're just babbling about science but not actually producing anything relevant, or two, they're aware that they're not producing anything relevant and they're using the term science as an attempt to gain otherwise unearned credibility. And I really don't know any way to look at it than those two basic circumstances. And so, yes, for all of these years now, we're yet to see anything substantial produced by millions of dollars that have gone into this, and teams of people that have said they're doing scientific study, yet they don't explain their hypothesis, they don't explain their methodology, they don't explain what the objectives were, they don't explain how progress will be measured, they don't take this initial hypothesis that was formed and then update it, reassess it with these series of experiments that should be explained and projected. It's not necessary that someone gives us all of that information up front, but a big problem I have with the overall circumstances, Erica, is that researchers that don't want to talk about their work and don't want to talk about how they're hoping it shakes out, that's understandable that they're going to want to wait and present it all at once. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing people actively lobby, literally and figuratively, in the halls of Congress as well as public opinion, that are trying to lead the public to premature conclusions that don't want to give the research that justifies these premature conclusions. And so I have a big problem with that.
And I think that we all should. And I know it's and I will say that when I first was approached, back in 2017, I was very supportive because I thought it was a really cool thing. It's like, oh my gosh, this is happening in Utah, and how wonderful. And they, by all accounts, are going to be transparent with the data, and they are not going to be working with Bigelow and his team, and they're not going to be attempting to work with the government. This is like one of those things that is just, this is an independent thing for all of us to learn from. And, again, it's like I keep mentioning, and then you do as well, we're not seeing that. I mean, we were promised something in 2017, 18, 19, 2022. And yet what we're seeing is a website with a paywall, which, is great. I mean, it's nice to, make money. That's great. But that, some of these things are not what we were promised, and they're being, I don't know. And then you've got the fact that you've got, small business owners in the community up there in Roosevelt surrounding the ranch, who are allegedly getting cease and desist letters for using the term Skinwalker or Skinwalker Ranch. And, which is, to me, if this is truly the case, very sad, because those people are doing nothing but promoting a narrative and trying to create a community. And so that is, that's information I've learned over the past couple of days. And so I think that really, again, that's what are we doing here? Are we trying to move forward together? Are we making money because it's an entertainment thing? And if that's, like, I just have to throw this out here, so this is entertainment. I mean, clearly that's how the whole thing was structured and set up to begin with. And, if there is a chance that somebody could be wrong, or, there's an error here, or we're going to make a mistake there, then that team should be humble enough and professional enough to say, yeah, we will make mistakes, and we're not going to mount a campaign against people who are trying to hold their feet to the fire for statements that they've made in public that they can't back up. But, instead we see the slimy malcontent and things, which I'm malcontent, rebellious. I'm rebellious. I'm totally down with that one. Next week, I'm gonna have a big old T-shirt that will be available on my show, so you too can be a slimy malcontent. Feels good. So
yeah, there's definitely a dynamic that goes on in UFO circles in which sensationalists put forward speculation and will stand on the gas up until someone slows them down. And at the point they're fact checked on it, then they will try to frame it as if it's a personal attack, and that there is something terribly immoral about asking them, can they back up their claim, and I think, along with how I was saying, over time, when people say this has been a scientific investigation, but we don't see scientifically, professionally presented results, there's another thing we can kind of draw from that, and that is, does anyone sincerely believe that if the owners of Skinwalker Ranch, past or present, had significant information, data, films, instrument readings that were substantially indicative of paranormal or unexplained circumstances, does anyone sincerely believe there wouldn't be time to present that? Really?
well, you would definitely think there would be more than, baby alpacas that are getting ripped apart by uh, reservation dogs and things like that, allegedly. Um, but I mean, you would think that, and I want to just raise a couple issues that I've been raising in multiple on many shows of mine. And I actually, when I was at the conference month and a half ago, brought this up to Travis Taylor, and it's like, if you are going on to a TV show and saying that there are dangerous levels of radiation, then who are you working with in the community, or locally or federally, at a national level, to make sure that the people that are coming on the set aren't being harmed, that the community around the ranch isn't being harmed? And his answer, literally, I mean, he looked at me and just said, well, the TV show. And I mean, to me, that just speaks volumes. Okay, it's the TV show. That's what, well, duh. I guess we should know that, there are dangerous levels of radiation, and we should learn this information on a TV show. That's not the way things work. And I also want to point out too, and this is something that I've, been out in that area and photographed many times. I mean, you've got a a craft hovering over the triangle, which is just a road. But, I mean, if that were the case, you wouldn't have airline commercial, flights going over the ranch every day, multiple times an hour. That wouldn't be happening. So, I mean, what are the answers for that? And
There are.
go ahead.
Please
Sorry.
continue.
No, you go right ahead.
There are a number of holes in this narrative. I'm reminded of a few years back when I asked Robert Schaefer to contribute some content for my blog, which he generously did. And he mentioned that he doesn't think anyone would have a big problem with it if, at that time, he was discussing MUFON. He said, if MUFON just said, we're entertaining people and they're interested in UFOs and we're just going to entertain people. And he said, I don't think anyone would then have a big problem with it. Where the problem comes in is when you claim that it's scientific and that it's legitimate study. And I think one of the issues you're touching on there, Erica, with Dr. Taylor, I think it is my opinion I may have been brushing up against with the associate of Brandon Fugels that I referenced in my recent blog post. And even if it is not the case, what I'm about to explain with these two, I think a dynamic that we do see in this genre is that people with an actual profession, a science profession, or they associate themselves in the least with a certain scientific discipline, get drawn in through employment, through interest, through any number of ways. And then it can become difficult perhaps for them to, they can have conflicts of interest, I'll put it that way, between what they have agreed to do as a condition of employment and acceptance or ridicule from their peers and their colleagues in their profession. And I don't mean ridiculed about being interested in UFOs. I mean ridiculed about supporting absolutely ridiculous suggestions or suggestions that don't hold any water at all. And that was, in my opinion, one of the things I might have been running into with, as I explained in my blog post, Brandon suggested and gave me the contact info for an associate of his to seek more information about my topic of interest, which was law enforcement responses to the ranch.
Right. And I just wanted to say, if you can go to the UFO Trail, ufotrail.blogspot.com, and see Jack's latest article that was published on July 10th. It is entitled Skinwalker Transparency and Burden of Proof. And so you can go there and then also, read that along with what Jack is going to tell us. It's very interesting.
Thank you. And this associate was forthcoming, offered to speak with me by phone, was hospitable and helpful, and I was attempting to find information to help me make a request for records to a law enforcement agency if this associate did not have such records, which they informed me they did not. And they gave me information that was helpful. And over the course of a few days, I filed a records request, got back with them that I was unable to obtain any records, and asked them if they wanted to comment for my blog post on the information they had given me, the circumstances they had described. And they informed me that no, they did not. They respectfully declined. And at that point, advised me that they did not give consent to be named or quoted in my blog post. For various reasons, I chose to respect that request. And I feel like, even if not in that circumstance, in some circumstances, what we might be headed into here is not only problems with non-disclosure agreements with employers, which is really peculiar in this circumstance, that the employer told me, like designated the person as a spokesperson to talk to me. So that's getting pretty crazy with claims of transparency. And so I feel like in some circumstances, what we're seeing is perhaps a lack of accountability about, by profession, this is my title, yet I'm wanting to support these narratives that basically aren't particularly soundly put together.
Right. And then, I mean, and that is so interesting. It's like, I'm seeing more and more social media posts from Lord knows who, anonymous, sources that are saying that there was, well, we've got this new information that there were, settlers back in the 1800s that were claiming that there were paranormal circumstances like happening and things. And it's just like, again, we've got more stories that are being put out there that have no, I mean, you can't verify them. It's ridiculous. And then if you ask anybody that, what is, you're I don't know what, the devil, you need to be thrown in a lake with a little rock around your waist or something. I mean, it's just it's so ridiculous. And I want to thank everybody tonight for your donations. Thank you so much, Doorbell, and everyone who has been helping to support the show. And Red Panda Koala, does Jack think there are truly anomalous UFO cases, or is this like all a grift?
I see the question there. Oh boy. I mean, I can never say, all the apples I've ever seen are red, so there aren't any green ones. I mean, it's kind of like, how should I know? Um, I am certain that there are things that are not entirely understood yet. I mean, all we have to do is look at these latest fascinating telescope images to say, wow, there's a lot out there yet to be understood.
Right.
Uh, yeah, so I really can't. I'm just really not in a position to speak on um, everything all at once. I'm thinking of the last movie I saw that was pretty good. Everything on a Bagel. And so I'm just not in a position to speak on that. I can speak on a specific circumstance I'm looking at, and in that regard, I feel like in the instance like this recent blog post and interacting with Brandon Fugel, who I appreciate that he fielded my questions and he answered them, knowing that he views me as somewhat of a hostile writer on the topic. I don't view myself that way, but I know that he may to some extent. So I appreciate that he fielded my questions. Yet, um, he has a knack for using sound bites that really don't apply to the questions that were asked. And again, like Robert Schaefer saying, if we're just entertaining, fine. But if you're claiming to be giving me a legitimate answer about what I asked, I begin to kind of have a problem with claiming you're doing scientific investigation. That's just going to come up again and again and again. And just giving me a wall of text about a person that talked to a person that interviewed a person that said. And it shows just a willingness to ignore or be oblivious to the lack of value that kind of evidence has to a scientific perspective or even a professional research perspective. All research is not scientific and doesn't have to be. It does if it's claimed it is, then it
Right.
has to be. But I don't claim to be doing scientific investigation. I'm not qualified to do it. I don't claim to be doing it. I get interested in certain topics and I research them and I write about them and I try to do my best to respect universally recognized standards of evidence by the journalism community, by the scientific and academic community, and how they rank evidence. And as you so aptly pointed out in the comments that you provided for the blog post, Erica, uh, word of mouth is just notoriously bad for trying to document circumstances. And this isn't an opinion. It's not something somebody says. It's not according to American press standards. It is established again and again through clinical trials done by Dr. Loftus, done by Dr. Shaw, that people don't know what the hell they're talking about from 1 hour to the next about something they just saw happen, much less something that they claim was in 1983. And I mean,
Or
that's,
the late 1800s now. We've got that going for us too. So
yeah, I mean, that's just how it is, just how it is.
right. And I mean, and that it is, yeah, I mean, there's nothing tangible that has come out of Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, you can sit there and watch a TV show, and you can watch, them throwing water bottles out of a plane, and you can see little, whatever they've got on the TV, and saying that there's transponder, data, in that. But I mean, interestingly enough, some of those water bottles were found, and interestingly enough, gosh, there were no transponders in them. So what were they doing? And then here's another question for you, because obviously I think that when you are really involved in creating a community effort, you really want to get people around the ranch to support things, and there are questions about radiation or public safety for that matter. I think when you are firing off rockets, and I mean, are there I mean, what are the protocols for that? Are those is the rocket debris landing on other people's property? It's a very dry area up there. Are there fire officials on standby in case something happened? What are the regulations for firing specific types of rockets up in the air? And it would be interesting to see if there is any evidence of requesting FAA documentation, permits to do that, and how do they actually clean up after some of their experiments, especially if some of the experiments went into neighboring properties. I mean, what are they doing about that? So there's so many questions about all this. And Scott Nelson, I just want to say thank you so much again for your donations. You guys have been really, really awesome tonight. I have no idea how fabulous that is. Thank you very much. But I mean, I just think, and I want to just read UFO John Doe. The weirdest thing that ever happened to me when I once drove out that way, Roosevelt, Fort Duchesne, is I had a Jeep. I had my Jeep top down, went into a store for a soda, came out, and the bikini top was on. So thank you. I mean, honestly, that would, that's always interesting. You never know what's going to happen in Roosevelt, I'm telling you. But I think that, these are all important questions. And again, you and I are not posing these questions because we are, um, I mean, we're skeptics. We're posing these questions because we want the answers, and we deserve the answers. And as far as I'm concerned, people that want disclosure and people that want good information should be standing up and saying, wait a minute, this isn't good information. Wait a minute, we're being taken for a ride. If you're saying this, give us the evidence. We deserve that. After 50 plus years, 60 plus years, we don't have tangible evidence, and we deserve that. And hey, Mr. Man that is claiming he's not making money. I mean, how many ways are you making money off of this? You're an executive producer. You have all sorts of roles in this. Come on. We deserve asking questions and demanding answers when people are making claims that cannot be backed up. That is not a bad thing. That is what we should be doing in this subject. And anybody with a brain knows it.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be a bad thing to be considered skeptical. I mean, especially in a community that's getting pulled to UFO conferences to be sold cryptocurrency. Maybe a little skepticism wouldn't hurt. I think that there's a lot of reasonable questions here. There really are. And I don't think that most people realize how well the whole Skinwalker mythos has been painted, and there's some people that are really good at storytelling and painting images. And as I was working on this blog post, and I was looking at the statements that I was given, and I was thinking about, like when you hear people say something on TV and you think you know what it meant, and then you go tell a friend what you saw on TV, and then the way you tell the story to your friend, it might not really even be what they said, but it's like what you drew from it, what it meant to you. And I was looking at some of the statements I was given, like one of them was to the effect of other law enforcement officers have been interviewed that said they responded to calls in the area. And, well, yeah. And like that's and like if your imagination will let you run with it, like, do you see a bunch of guys at night out in the field with flashlights looking for looking at this dismembered cow, or responded to calls in the area? Well, yeah, like somebody's fence was down or something. Like they didn't even tell me at the ranch. They said in the area, and then and they added, and weird stuff, something to the effect of, and weird stuff had happened. Wow. Like this just sounds like a teenager slumber party or
wow.
something.
Good point.
Weird stuff had happened. I can empathize. I really can. If somebody feels like, okay, now Jack knows what I meant, he's just picking it apart. These are really, really heavy claims that you're implying otherworldly, unexplainable things are happening, and you want me to accept that on a statement like cops have responded in the area and they say weird stuff's happened, and that's just baffling to me. And I think it's not really baffling. It demonstrates to me the extent that people are either unaware of how ambiguous their language is, or they do that on purpose because they want to give a statement but don't want to actually say anything. And that's like I started with. I really don't know any other way to look at it than okay, I said fire away, give me your best shot, and your best shot is you got people say somebody said something happened. That's, I guess, your best shot.
Well, and I want to go back to the fact that we have Garth Myers, who I'm going to in a little bit play just a portion of an interview that I did with James Carrion, which you so graciously mentioned or put a link to on the UFO Trail. But in that interview, James Carrion, if you don't know who he is, and if you do know who he is, I'm sure you think he is a huge skeptic and debunker. But this is a guy that was the executive director of MUFON, and he was the fellow that was involved with the Bigelow deal when Bigelow purchased the rights for the MUFON database, and that whole Skinwalker Ranch thing was going on at that point in time. And he has done more research than most people I know. He has been to the National Archives on many different occasions and really started to look at things from a perspective of, okay, wait, this is what could have been happening during the Cold War. This is what could be happening now. This is how an intelligence, operation could be taking place, and asked, questions. He went out to with Dr. Frank Salisbury to Skinwalker Ranch and actually interviewed several people around the ranch. And they were, again, at the end of the day, thinking that there was something wrong with the narrative. And I know in my interviews with Junior Hicks, he questioned things like the notorious story that they couldn't collect any information because the camera wires were cut and nobody knew who they were cut by. Well, Junior is an electrician, and he did state that he went out to the ranch and saw that the wires were clearly cut by a human being. I also think that Junior was, approached and kind of played by some of these people in the community, the Bigelow people, and then now the new team, which is unfortunate because he was a lovely and kind human being. And I will say, and I want to just throw this out here, I remember in one of my interviews with Junior, I was there right after the Hunt for the Skinwalker film made its debut, and Junior was absolutely heartbroken that he did not receive an invite, even though he was in the film, but he did not receive an invite from Team Fugel or Team Bigelow or Team Corbell to go to the debut of that movie. And that really hurt him. And I just think that was, for me, kind of a very sad thing. And again, represents the way people can be manipulated and used for information when it's convenient, and then discarded when they're no longer useful or relevant. So that was pretty sad. But anyway, just had to throw that out there. So
Yeah, I look forward to the clip. I'd like to add something about James, if you don't mind.
yeah.
Thank you. James Carrion, in the time frame about 2010 to 2012, as his time was coming to an end as MUFON executive director, he had a front row, as Erica suggested, a front row seat for the Bass and MUFON collaboration that was ill-fated and went south. And that begat the STAR team that was supposed to be a rapid response team. And James Carrion was the first person I was aware of, and what really began to interest me in his writing and work and his assessments of things. He was the first person that publicly stated he's the executive director of the organization and doesn't know where the money came from. That it was donated through Bigelow, but he was made aware that John Schuessler was informed that Bigelow was acting as a conduit for a donor that wished to remain unnamed, and Schuessler did not share the name of that donor with the rest of the board, which we now understand to have been the Defense Intelligence Agency and part of the OSAP contract in all likelihood. And at that point in time, people like James and me and others that said, this is really significant when a nonprofit corporation doesn't want to explain where its money came from, that is involved in this kind of research, in these kind of circumstances. And we were pretty much branded conspiracy theorists and all the usual that goes along with it. And so that's an interesting and relevant part of the story to me, that James first alerted the community, those of us that saw the significance, that Bigelow and Schuessler were declining to explain the source of the funds that were being used for that collaboration. And those of us that have been around long enough to remember MUFON during those days, to know a MUFON investigator was to know someone that heard rumors that the feds or the CIA or somebody had hijacked MUFON, and the stories of case files disappearing and being rearranged, and access to the case files and all of that were rampant. And it's interesting in hindsight to know there was actually some truth to those perspectives and those rumors that were going around. And yes, James was who, as the director of the organization, explained publicly that he really had a problem with not being informed where the money that's operating the organization was coming from.
Right. And thank you for addressing that. And I want to just go back to UFO John Doe. Thank you very much for your question and your donation. And I had Brandon on my show maybe a year and a half ago, and this was right when things were starting to get a little sketchy, because I was finding out more information after the solicitation sheet for OSAP made its way to the public forum and things. And again, he was, very, here's a script, this is the narrative. He has since, because I asked questions about the transparency and different things on Twitter, has blocked me on Twitter, not only blocked me on Twitter, but called me a slimy malcontent on Twitter, which is really interesting coming from somebody with his character to say that about mine. So very interesting. But yeah, I would love to have him back on the show. I was last year, I think around this time, at I was at a dinner with him at the Alta Club with some really wonderful people, and that was an interesting experience. And I wanted to say that when I was first approached by this group of people, I really believed in what they were doing. I really felt this was something of merit. I was excited. I went out of my way to promote them on my show, and to, I really was taken in by what they were promoting. And so I understand that there are many people that are feeling the same way. Oh my gosh, somebody's nice to you, that means that you need to go out there and stick up for them and things. But I think at the end of the day, I've learned the hard way that's not necessarily, you can put on a good front, and it doesn't necessarily mean you are of character or of merit. Anyway, I'm just saying that. So yeah, and slimy malcontent is rude, but like malcontent. But I will say that that was pretty low. But I guess I will just get a T-shirt and run with it. And like I said, malcontent also means somebody who's rebellious, and I am rebellious when it goes to promoting the truth. And if that means going against people who have a lot of money and skin in the game and who need to protect their empires, then that's great. Then I will do that. You know that, you've seen that. So that's my bag, you guys. And
so
I wonder,
this was like 2016 to 2018 that you were promoting their efforts, and were hoping that it would work well. Am I correct?
well, you know what? Honestly, I started doing my show, oh my gosh, like maybe in 2013, 14. And, I was MUFON state director, and I was very much, I was interviewing everybody that had been around the ranch and had heard the stories and things. In fact, I need to just go, I need to get my website, skinwalkerranchutah.com. And I need to put out the interviews that I've done over the years with people, and because it's interesting, to hear where certain stories started, how people believed things. And so I had heard, I'd been going to lectures, and I know Ryan Burns is here. I went to a lecture with Ryan Burns like a million years ago. I don't even know if you can answer, like, how long ago was that you spoke to MUFON when Marley Spenlove was the director of that. That was really cool. I remember seeing that, and you had people on your property, and there was different things happening. And so I was intrigued by the story, I think, as all of us have been for a long, long time. And then, then 2016, 17-ish, when the ranch changed hands, that's when I was approached. And, and so, that was an interesting time period. And again, like I said, I was very supportive and didn't, at the end of the day, and I said this at the beginning of the show, my goal was, great if I would have been on the TV show. Okay, that's always cool to be on a TV show. I've been on plenty of them. And if I wanted to be on a show that I felt was seriously of merit, I would have my own production team. I would have a talent agent, and I would be, doing that the way I wanted to do it. I don't need that to be relevant in life. And so it's just funny to see some of these excuses of people that are trying to discredit me for simply asking for transparency. And that speaks volumes, in my opinion.
Sure. I empathize. Couple weeks ago during July 4th weekend, you had the Sparky lady
Right.
on, who I enjoyed watching y'all discuss things, listening to your insights, and she said something to the effect of that. Listening to your show over the years and beginning over time to get a better handle on who you are and the things you've done. She expressed that to some extent and said something to the effect of that you had an important story, and that it was relevant and needed to be told, or something like that. She expressed how she thought that you have an important story, and that resonated with me. It's why I'm bringing it up, and I remember it. I think so too. I think that I think, and I'll kind of address the listeners now. I think Erica often knows more about a topic than I or the guest that she's asking about it knows, and she's willing to learn more if we happen to know something that we can tell her about it she doesn't know, and she doesn't need to insert herself in someone else's answer. And as we go around to different podcasts, I go around to different podcasts, we can get kind of in a mode of we're just fielding questions, and the host asks us something, and we talk and we talk and we talk, and they ask us something else, and we talk and we talk, and we're out of time, and thanks for having us. And I think that happens sometimes, and we might forget that the person we're talking to knows a lot about this subject matter as well.
Thank you. Thank you. You and I've had many private conversations. And a lot of people that are here in chat. I've had conversations with you and the Sparky lady. I loved having you on my show. You were such an important person to be doing more shows and informing us, teaching us what you know about aviation, the aviation world. I think just it's incredible. But I definitely I love this subject. I love hate it. And I'm passionate about it, and I'm not going to go away. I'm here for life. I'm here, whatever bumps and bruises I get along the way, because I believe this is not only an exciting topic, and we should, when you look at the images from NASA this week, it's just like, Wow. I mean, it's so mind blowing. There's so many important areas to study, and we should each feel like really empowered that we are here, that we're listening to the show, that we are asking questions, that we have an open enough mind that we want to explore, and that we also are grounded enough that we understand there are landmines that we need to step over. And I think that's really critical for pushing this subject forward. And right now, we're in a really critical time, in my opinion, with regard to where this subject is going to go, because you have history that is literally being rewritten, and history that is being completely, omitted. People don't care about MJ12. People are not going to care about the research of Barry Greenwood and some of the people that have really gone to bat for a decade, trying to disprove or get information on claims that were made that were completely bogus. And that was 10 years of research on MJ12. And so, right now, with researchers who are getting to that age where they're passing away and their files are either being donated to MUFON, where they will go in the black abyss and nobody will ever see them, or they're being thrown in the trash because a spouse is so angry that their spouse dedicated their whole life to the subject. You've got that, and you've got also people donating to places where a limited number of people are going to have access to that information. I think we really need to step up our game as a community and say, okay, what are we going to do to preserve this history so we don't have to keep repeating the same thing every 5 years? We don't need to hear Serpo again. We don't need to hear MJ12 again. We don't need to hear, the crash saucers and all of this stuff that has just been regurgitated actually by the same handful of people that have been around since the 70s. I think we all know who they are. But we need to look at the history and the research people have done, and we need to move this forward. This is an important and fascinating and fun topic. And so, we need to collectively get this going on, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you could do some, you have done some really good work with your archive and with trying to collect information. I from my observations, I think you've got some really good mentorship, like you say, from people like Mr. Greenwood on what you're looking at and what it can mean and what its significance is. He's been helpful to me as well, and he helped me get a hold of some material way back for the grades had been framed that I wanted to have a look at, and I think that was my first interaction with him, like 7 or 8 years ago. He was helpful, and I there's and again, I'll touch on James Carey on. I feel like I learned some things from watching the way after he had his break with MUFON, the way he approaches a topic, and I really appreciated that he took the 19 mid 1940s time frame, and he said, I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to do my FOIA requests, and I'm going to go to the archives, and I'm going to focus on this time frame and do forensic document research, historical forensic research on it. And there's a prevailing the word that comes to mind is grift in the UFO community, um, an opportunistic mindset of just I think Vinny was describing it well last week about what happens in cults of keep people on their heels, don't give them time to think critically, that he said, she said, fantastic story, we're running it down. soap opera like stuff that goes on, like writers for professional wrestling would do. Like we're just going to have an ongoing plot line. Long as somebody's popular and hot, we'll go with them. And when it cools down,
Define hot.
Popular.
Okay, because I'm like,
no, as long as the story is drawing eyes.
Okay, well, I mean, I've just
right. I got you.
Yep.
And we see that a lot. The Jeremy Corbells, the George Knapps, that if nothing else, I mean, George is just an old pro at keeping a story going, pulling it out, polishing it off, running it again. And when we look at the way James Carrion and Barry Greenwood do work in contrast to that is just night and day. That there's things that we can ascertain from official documents.
Right.
The FBI is not used near as much as it should be in research. That they are one of the, oddly enough, they are one of the more transparent agencies that I deal with, in that they really don't mind sharing their old investigations. If the people have passed away, if you can show them a reason that the topic is no longer a matter of security, they are more so than others. It's my opinion. They tend to be forthcoming. And my point being, that was a team in the 1940s, 50s, 60s to present of professional investigators that from multiple field offices, that sometimes Director Hoover would put multiple field offices on a person or on a topic, and we can go and we can get those records and see what the FBI had established about these people and about the circumstances. And when we look at official documents like that, and other archives that we can go through, universities like Princeton have entire entire collections of the letters of various people and the correspondence that they saved. I've gotten into some from former DCI Hillencoder and renowned skeptic Dr. Menzel. You and I have talked before about Colonel Joseph Bryan.
Right.
And there are entire archives of their correspondence just waiting to be looked at. Some of it I've looked at and written about and put in books, but my overarching point is to support your point that kind of information is what is recognized in these universal standards of evidence that I talk about, how it starts and ends with standards of evidence. And those are recognized as accurate until someone shows otherwise.
Right.
Like clinical trials and scientific findings are the standard until someone respects those standards and finds it to be incorrect and has the new benchmark to go by.
Right.
And what people say, what this personality or that personality has bellowed from the podium at a UFO conference in their latest rant, are just ridiculous in comparison to that type of work. And yes, people like Mr. Greenwood and Carry On indeed have set examples of doing that well.
Yeah, they absolutely have. And so if you, and I think that's really impressive. And I wanted to say that you can go to Project 1947, Jen Aldrich and all of his incredible work with a team of people. You can go to Barry Greenwood's website, which I'll be posting the links in chat. I mean, these are such important, underutilized sources for historical information, and I think we need to absolutely start learning about this. I mean, the subject wasn't invented or created because Lou Elizondo came out, because the 2017 story came out. No, there were people like Dr. James McDonald doing important work back in the late 60s. There people that have sacrificed their careers and their reputations for decades. And it's like we're reinventing the wheel in this. We've got this new cult figure who's bringing disclosure and bringing, this new momentum and yada, yada, yada. But this is like the same old playbook. I mean, it really, really is. And so I want to just ask you this question from Alien Climax Removal. Interesting name. Gotta love that one. And maybe I'll ask you behind the scenes where that came from. But anyways, so I want to just, he says, what do you see Brandon doing with Skinwalker Ranch 5 to 10 years down the road? And I think that then you've got Troubled Minds, saying maybe a theme park, maybe there will be, people there. I mean, who knows? But obviously, it's entertainment. We're trademarking the name to sell coffee mugs and stickers and, T-shirts and hats and things like that, and so and then we, which is interesting, and I think it's a great economic boom to the community to have these conferences. But I will say it's been interesting because I actually spoke to somebody today, just a random person that I was talking to, and they were mentioning the fact that they had a sibling that had fallen into this whole kind of mindset, and they actually went to that last conference, and they had kind of gone down a rabbit hole, which was very concerning to their family. And so I just have to say, you guys need to be careful, because when I was at that conference, I saw people that were, I could say you're falling into these cult-like belief systems and behaviors. And, we really need to be careful, because that's not what this should be about. And it certainly shouldn't be about selling cryptocurrency. Hey, but I guess that's the big thing. Everybody's on the crypto NFT thing, and that's going to be another piece later that I will be working on. We'll be working on.
That's a whole nother thing we'll pull out of the closet.
Like, what? Like, what?
I know.
Just when you think like it couldn't. Just yeah. You couldn't think it could get any more ridiculous. It's like, I've mentioned this on my past shows since I got back from the conference. It's like, okay, here we are. This is about UFOs. This is about Jalen Hynek. This is about A, B, C, and D. And halfway through, we're hearing about, oh, hey, wait a minute, we've got this crypto and NFT, and we need to be getting on, because this is the way that we are going to be, our financial, we're going to be, doing trade deals with Mars, because this is the universal,
I'll
whatever
need some
currency.
Faith Moon to buy a Coke on the aliens.
Clearly, seriously, it's like, I need to go lock myself, hide in a corner, pray and meditate. Seriously, there's enough information out there on some of these crypto scams, that we should be looking at. And it is interesting, again, when you do the research and you look at different things, different people, and the love of crypto in Utah, and different people in the political landscape who are supporting, A, B, C, and D. It's really fascinating. And so I definitely think, as much as I want to say, okay, let's focus on UFOs and, that fun exploration, I have to say, when I'm noticing these common themes with people and the use of the UFO culture, like you have in your book, your first book, that is, it's like, okay, how many ways can the UFO community, are full of incredible people, how many ways can we be used and abused and manipulated? And and we think because these people are such great cult figures that we are special, that we are being given information from, like I mentioned, the benevolent space brothers, the really, the blonde, tall Nordics and their little hand salutes and all of this stuff. It's like, what, seriously? I mean, we have to be careful. We have to be careful. We're at a really
Yeah,
critical time.
I see $1 billion Bob gave my Florida governor 10 million. That's a generous political donation. I guess he likes his work, huh? Um, and Sparky Lady, I saw your comments. Thank
Yes,
you.
and thank you, Sparky Lady. You were so amazing. I want to just like put this up there. So anyway, and yeah, again, you can watch like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Sparky Lady was on my show. She freaking rocks. She is, and this is what is so cool. Like I really honestly think um, that we are seeing, in like UFO John Doe kind of mentioned, we're seeing the changing of the guard from old propagandist vets to new wave of UFO propagandist money. And so we are, like, that's such a great comment. We are kind of in that. We're seeing that, but again, there is this. There are people that listen to this show, that listen to Josh and Artemis, that listen to, all of these other shows that are kind of underground, and we're pushing, pushing back at some of these people who've been promoting a load of crap. And we can do this, like collectively, we can all do this and push things forward in a really positive way. I know we can. And trust me, I've been ready to walk away. You've heard this, Jack, like a million times. I'm like, I'm done. I tell this to Barry. I'm like, I'm over this dysfunctional group of people. And then, like, I get into to do the show, and then I, like, see all of these incredible people that, I don't know. I just think it's pretty cool. And we have started a movement in the right direction.
Yes, yes. It ebbs and flows, and um, they asked where we see the ranch 5 or 10 years from now. I don't know, but if history is any teacher, what we won't see is any significant research produced. I mean, there hasn't been in all these years. Prove me wrong, and I'll say, well, they came up with something significant. Um, you know, an important point is um, we'll stick with some of the people we've already discussed. James Carrion, Barry Greenwood. You and I may disagree on some things. We may disagree on what some facts indicate, what our assessment of a situation is. I'm pretty confident that we will agree on what the facts are. We may have different interpretations of what they mean. I do not feel in my interactions with Brandon Fugel that we have a common ground of what certain definitions of words mean. And it's really difficult to go anywhere under those circumstances, anywhere where there will be any resolution. And I harp a lot about standards of evidence, and we are not going to be able to agree on or resolve a situation and what we think something means or indicates if we cannot agree on what a fact is, the definition of a fact. One of the just worst trashers of the definition that I've seen in recent memory is Jeremy Corbell, that will just throw out the word fact like he just has no idea how it's even defined. And you know, I'll kind of come back to another pet peeve I have is discussing what we're going to give you later. That has been an absolutely horrible tactic used by Luis Elizondo and To the Stars. Brandon does it. Brandon Fugel is heavily implies important stuff is coming later. Dr. Nolan has what I identify, in my opinion, as a tendency to discuss speculation and what he thinks some circumstances will work out to be verified as. I find a lot of that kind of talk irresponsible in that, first of all, just look at the genre we're in and the history it's had. You know, I do not know a subculture or a demographic that people have an interest in that is in more need of less speculation and more data verified circumstances. So I identify it as irresponsible to talk about, well, it could this, it could that. And like I said, how they won't even tap the brakes until they're challenged. I'm of the opinion that oftentimes these people that I just named will even stop suggesting it's speculation and just kind of start talking about their beliefs as if they're pretty solidly known. And it's just like a foregone conclusion that the things they believe in are true and the rest of us should just accept it. And I see that as irresponsible because they know that people will get emotionally invested in that, and they will give them status as heroes. They will hold them up and want them to be some kind of Messiah-like UFO person. And I see that as really problematic, especially when called on it, they want to jump back on the other side of the fence and say, I was just saying, I'm just speculating.
Or they just block you, or they mount a campaign
give
with
it
a little
time. We're
trolls
analyzing the data. You're trying to push me for results will be the defense when you're just trying to fact check what they already said they know, that they're not giving evidence that's in proportion.
Well, I mean, there's a good, I mean, I hate to use the term gaslighting, but I mean that's kind of what you just see this.
That's absolutely what it is.
It's just it's ridiculous. It's like you ask a question, then you've got like 5 people on Twitter like dissecting comments you've made, throwing it back into your face, and they're not answering the questions. And this is just these are great tactics, but at the end of the day, we people that have a brain and a clue understand that this kind of thing is taking place. And so it's fascinating to me to see. And I want to just really quickly try to share the screen. This could be maybe really frightening, clearly. Knowing me, it's going to be frightening. Okay, let's see. Because I wanted to share. Well, this is not going to work. Anyway, never mind.
Do
Oh,
what
I
you
know.
got to do.
Okay, no. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share the screen. Okay, hopefully I'm sharing the screen. Can anybody see that? Probably not.
I can see that.
Oh, you can't see that?
I can.
Oh, you can see UFO Valley Campgrounds?
I can.
Oh my Lord, this is so exciting. Okay, sorry. Actually did something right. So I just want to give a shout out to Stacy and Jody up at UFO Valley Campgrounds. And they have a beautiful, 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 I love that place. I can't wait to get back out there. And these great pictures that Ryan Gordon has taken, unprecedented views of one of the world's most notorious paranormal hotspots. And if you want to go camping at a really, really, really cool place, this is the place to go. So I want to just show this because I'm super stoked. I mean, check these photos out. This is so cool. Hopefully it will let. I'm sorry, like I'm geeking out right now. And it's not
No,
even working.
I am enjoying the presentation. I am
No,
not
well, yeah,
laughing.
thank you. Thank you. No, so look at this wonderful photo. Okay, Ryan Gordon again. This is like the view on top of the mesa. And that is just freaking stellar. And every single night that you go up there, you can see just incredible things. So I want to just go back and look at that. That's amazing. So even if there are not, and there's a great group of people out there, like taking the tour, learning about things, but even if you don't believe that there are actually things taking place, look at that. That's so cool. Got all those people. These guys rock. But anyway, look how gorgeous. Okay, so I just had to play. I just had to geek out there for a second because I think,
Sure.
like, honestly, like I'm telling you, I love that area. It's such a cool area, and you definitely, if you go camping this summer, which I'm getting a group of friends, and we're going up there, we're going to stay there. It is so freaking awesome. So I just want to support all of them and their, uh, everything that they've done. They just are very cool people and super awesome. So thanks for letting me, like, yeah. And Jack, you should come out here. We should go totally like hide in the bushes, like get the night vision goggles, like shine
How
flashlights up and pretend like they're UFOs. I think we could have a ton of fun with these guys. I love it.
for people like me that don't know Utah, is that in the vicinity of like the UFO tower that the lady made?
No, no, no. This
That
is
is New Mexico.
yeah, and this is like actually so that this is right next to the ranch that shall be unnamed, and so
Yes,
yeah,
I have
yeah,
seen it on the map. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
UFO
it's
tower, different state,
yeah,
Jack.
different state, but hey, we could do like a little tour. We could go here and there and everywhere, and that would be fun. But I mean, it's like seriously, like I can't. I love camping, and I need to get up there and go hang out with them again because they're just amazing. It's a beautiful campsite, and I'm going to throw this out there. So I know that there are people in here from Utah that are in chat, and I want to say let's plan a date, you guys. Maybe at the beginning of September when we are all going out to camp there and staying with them. Let's do it. Let's all talk behind the scenes. So, and yes, Drew Williamson, that is the glowing mesa, allegedly, but that's okay. Anyway. So yeah, let's go out and stay there. So, and Jack, I want to just say, and thanks for letting me again, like go off on my little tangent there. And thanks again, Scott, for your donations. But I want to go back and I'm going to try to share the screen again, which, this could be very frightening. Hang on one second. Because I want to play the clip of, hang on, I want to play the clip of James Carry On. This is where my technical advisor needs to come into play.
Just send me another link if I get thrown out into the ether.
Yes, I clearly should. So let's see. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's not going to work. Anyway, you won't get thrown into the ether because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, thanks for, sharing. So anyway, you could, oh dear Lord. Okay, here we go. So you can go to, and I'm sorry that I can't share this because I have it open on a different browser, but I want you guys all to go to UFO Classified, and I want you to look up a show that I did on August 20th, 2021. This show was with James Carrion, and this was very, very interesting because he brought up a lot of really great points about his research into Skinwalker Ranch, about his time working for Bigelow, and specifically about meeting Dr. Frank Salisbury and then going to the area to interview people. And I think that's really important. And both James and I had conversations with Dr. Frank Salisbury, where later in his life he was questioning specific narratives that had been put forward. And so I think that's a really important interview. So listen to that interview, guys, and let me know what your thoughts are and things. So anyway, I appreciate that. So Jack, like where are you going to go next? What are your thoughts on how to kind of get out there, do information, and hold people's feet to the fire? Because clearly, with your latest blog post, you've demonstrated the fact that there are people putting out stories that, when you really press them for factual information on those stories, they have nothing to give except for, you go over here and then you can look at this person promoting something that can't be verified. So what are your thoughts on that and where you're going to go?
Thank you for asking. There's a few things that I like working on, Erica. I still have a lot of irons in the fire with FOIA requests that are still pending from NICAP. I'm still expecting hundreds of pages of documents pertaining to NICAP. I mentioned Princeton. I'm wanting to coordinate with them some things in a Joseph Bryan collection that has been really problematic with the pandemic. I enjoy that kind of stuff. I think people that start reading my work will gain some appreciation for how I got more interested in FOIA requests and those standards of evidence I'm always harping about that provide resolution to certain issues. You either find it or you don't. You either verify something or you don't. And maybe the best you can do is suspend judgment. And I like working on stuff like that. I like helping people with stuff like that. There are some folks that have approached me for help with some topics they're working on that I'm looking forward to their eventual work coming out. That Sarah Scholes once described me in her book as a process guy. And I kind of enjoyed that because I really do find the FOIA fascinating in that I almost don't care about what someone's interested in, that I'll help them with the request. And then there's like a series of things that might happen. And so you kind of have your flow chart going of, okay, you submitted this to the State Department. They're going to say like one of two or three things initially. And then you have, depending on what they say, one of a couple options. And I like just putting lots of stuff on the wall and trying these different options. And I've gotten some help from some people that are really good at it and experienced. And they've helped me learn how to craft appeals. And I'm enjoying that, seeing how far I can get with it. So, my long form answer to your question that you so patiently listened to is that I want to continue doing that with claims that are put forth about ranches, about the Defense Intelligence Agency, about things going on with OSAP and the DoD. One of the things that bothered me about all that is they're completely gaslighting us if we'll let them, with saying that none of that stuff is subject to the Freedom of Information Act. It's just not true. It's simply not true. And some of us have been getting documents that they told us not to bother to request for years now. And with like I was saying, there's kind of a flow chart. With each score you get, you'll find more things in that document that you can say, okay, now I can reference this FOIA request, and in it you gave me this document and it referenced this circumstance. I'd like to see that. And like my work with NICAP did, that can just go on for years. That you just keep saying, well, show me this one now, show me this one, show me this one. And as we were discussing earlier, you start getting a picture painted, as James Carrion showed us with the 1947, the summer of 47. You start getting a picture painted through those documents that is not what's being represented by sensationalists that they have all kinds of motives and agendas for, and that's what I enjoy, and that's where I see my efforts about the ranch and the people involved with the ranch and the OSAP, and it's almost the same story to a certain extent. Yeah, I mean, it's so many of the same players. I think there's a whole story to be done on Robert Bigelow's influence of the UFO community that people are not typically aware of. That he seems to have had money in everybody from Lazar to David Jacobs to Bud Hopkins to current circumstances and dancing with the DIA. And as I thought was important with James at Carrion's original correct concerns about Bigelow acting as a conduit for an intelligence agency and the distribution of funds. When the funding of one project has come under question, then the funding of many of those projects comes under question. And I think that that's something, Erica, that gets overlooked by the believers and the skeptic side of the aisle alike, that they understandably don't want to fuel conspiracy theories. The skeptics don't, and that's admirable. But there's also something to be said that it's a legitimate story to follow when intelligence agencies are funding nonprofit corporations and concealing where the funding's coming from, and that those nonprofit corporations happen to be involved in UFO research that seems to have a real lenient ear at the New York Times. I mean, these stories matter.
Right, they do matter, and I think it is really. I mean, I think your work with NICAP, I mean, that is so fascinating. And I was looking at a NICAP investigator from like back in the late 50s, and it's just like you open this up and it's Senator Barry Goldwater and, A, B, C, and D. And it's just like you have exactly the same stories that are taking place now. And it's like,
ding, ding, ding.
Wow. I mean, it's like, it's insane. It's like, okay. I mean, here we're thinking that these are new things and that people are pushing the boundaries. And it's like, no, they're just pulling out the UFO investigator from 50 years back, and they're reading a script and they're running with it. And I think the thing that is is, really alarming right now. And again, I try to mention this a lot, is the fact that we've got social media, we've got people like Peter Thiel, we've got people that, like Facebook, you've got all like Palantir, you've got all of these people that are collecting data to figure out what makes people tick, what pisses people off, what makes people happy, how to manipulate emotions, and so our data is being bought and sold for people. And I often wonder, when I look at some of the things that I have about Bigelow, about how they were doing studies on religion, and how if somebody were to say this was a UFO or an alien was here, how would religious figures act? So this is, to me, it's not studying the phenomenon. This is studying human behavior. And the ultimate goal, in my opinion, would be to learn how to manipulate people to do specific things. And as we've seen, that there is that has happened, and unfortunately, people are believing things that are not necessarily truthful. They're not vetting their sources. They're not understanding that there are foreign adversaries that are using data to manipulate us and create discontent in our nation, and influence elections. And I think, and I hate to even go there, but I think the UFO community has been used and abused for decades as almost like a testing ground for some of these things. And I think that's really important for us to look at. So don't just get into this and look at a single case. Get in this and look at this from a bird's eye view. Look at the players involved. Look at where the funding was going, whose political campaigns were they funding, what was happening with conspiracy theories that were being inserted into a narrative, and how have those conspiracy theories led to specific, actions in some of these movements that are taking place. I think this is really, really important to me. So
It is important, and the political arena cannot be separated from the UFO arena. It's part and parcel. It has been since day one. Uh, as you say in the NICAP material, um, Director Kehoe was rattling swords with Congress from day one. That was his idea of UFO research, was lobbying politically and getting allies that he at least seemed to hope could open cans of worms that would be relevant. And it's always been that way, that it the so-called disclosure movement gains momentum if and when it is identified by the offices, the people that work for, the consultants that advise elected officials, that it's more advantageous to pick up the issue than to avert from it. And that's just what politics is. It's actually a very concerning chain of events when, instead of scientists telling the news reporters what their assessments of the circumstances are, we have uh, former bureaucrats, we have elected officials, we have members of UFO organizations that have vested interests in it. I was reading Heidi Beadle's work, Colorado journalist who recently attended the MUFON symposium, and she was explaining that MUFON has hired a lobbying agency to act on their behalf. This just defines science by press release. That it just defines it, and it's very concerning when we don't have qualified voices of reason, at least giving their view in proportion to the wholesale public relation campaign that's taken place.
Right. And that, I mean, this, we should, like, as people that allegedly care about the subject and allegedly care about disclosure, we should be standing up and saying, what? What is going on? This isn't disclosure. This is creating cult-like belief systems and steering a narrative and inserting politics when there should not be. This shouldn't be a political issue. This should be about us exploring and investigating and researching something that could potentially, change the world, and I think that we should be empowered by that. But again, it's like we have to understand some of these people and parties and big money that we've got going on behind the scenes that are trying to influence that. And again, I want to, just stress, Peter Thiel. I find that whole thing quite alarming, and I would definitely recommend doing some research on that and things, and the way that data is bought and sold and manipulated, and the people that are promoting him on social media, what are these people like truly out for UFO disclosure, or are they truly out to manipulate a whole population? I don't know. Anyway, I swear this this channel will get shut down tomorrow.
I'm laughing because your assessment of Teal reminds me, those of us that are old enough to remember the film Lost Boys about the vampires.
Yes, I love
And
that.
the guy's girlfriend was a vampire, and his brother told him, "And don't tell me it doesn't make her a bad person."
I need to watch that show tonight. That's what I'm going to watch. In fact, oh gosh, who was Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah.
And I remember back in, well, I'm not even going to say, back when I was 10 years ago, when I actually went down to where did they film that? Right outside of Monterey, Santa Cruz. They filmed that in Santa Cruz, and I remember going there with my girlfriend, and it's like, whoa, this is where they filmed The Lost Boys and stuff. And I actually, for a brief moment in history, knew Kiefer Sutherland and got to hang out with him and specific places and stuff. And that
Oh
was
my
really,
God,
really, I
Erica,
know,
you're just gonna
know.
drop that just nonchalantly.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about it and stuff, and that was kind of a cool moment in time. He's super, super nice guy. I really liked him and stuff, and he was in town doing some filming and stuff. But yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I loved Lost Boys. I'm gonna watch that. Sorry, you just totally got me thinking about vampires now.
Yeah, and don't say it doesn't make her a bad person.
Exactly. I like that. Again, another T-shirt, and I've got to just say, on that note. So here is slimy malcontent.
Oh.
Yeah, baby. Mama's getting some T-shirts. Slimy malcontent. Malcontent does mean, mischievous, adventurous, rebellious. So anyway, thank you, Mario, for whipping up that slimy malcontent. And I will be clearly trademarking that. And, whatever. We can buy T-shirts and we can all start the slimy malcontent group. I know, sounds like fun. I know. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks. Yay. Good job. So anyway, on that note, okay, so Jack, okay, so you and I are we are working behind the scenes. We're collaborating on things. I'm really excited about that. I've got some other people that are also helping with things, and this has been really cool because we do have an underground group of people that we're communicating. We are doing information requests. We are figuring things out. And so I just want to just go out there and say, this isn't like this is a 1 or 2 person operation. There are many people behind the scenes that are doing good things. And I'm really excited about some of the connections I've made and the people that are going to make sure that we are putting information forward that is the truth. And I want to say, if anybody comes at me with some sort of little I don't know what, cease and desist letter, then I would say, bring it on. If somebody wants to, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, say that I was desperate to be on a TV show, again, bring it on, because we have the documentation. And I think the people who are saying this and myself know the truth. And, we can go there until the cows come home. But I know the truth, and I know that at the end of the day, you want to call me slimy, and I would say definitely look at yourself in the mirror, and then perhaps know that there are many people who know about certain things that have gone on in the public forum. So yeah, anyway, just had to say that. That was me. How was that?
Speak your truth, Erica.
You know what? I'm thinking, yeah, my truth is a good thing because it is the truth. And at the end of the day, it's like, I think I'm here for the truth. This hasn't made me, I mean, I've aged 100 years since I started in this whole thing. And I've been through so many things like we all have. And it's just like, okay, I'm not every day, like I say to you or Barry, it's like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, what positive benefit does this have in my life? And, when I don't know, when I pray and meditate and have a moment, like the positive benefit is I get to meet people like you, like Barry, like all the people in chat that just want to know the truth, that are on this like actually really incredible discovery process. Like we're all here and we're learning how to use, to do FOIA requests. We're learning how to ask questions of people. We're learning how to understand our natural, world. And we are bettering ourselves as human beings. And I think, I'm basically talking to myself right now. This is why I'm here. Because I think, at the end of the day, I've learned so much, and I've gained so many wonderful friendships. And I really feel like I have mentioned that we are in a pivotal time, and we are creating a community of like-minded people who care about the subject, who care about the history, who care about witnesses who are reporting things, and we will give them the tools to report things in a safe place, and we will make sure that history is preserved, and we can create an organization that is bringing all of that together in the to move things forward in a positive direction. So I just want to say, I think we can do it. What about you, Jack?
I think so, Erica. I think you have. I think you have. Can you do it more? Yeah, you can.
Well, I look forward to doing that because I feel completely motivated now to do that. And again, like I see people like from I don't know. I see people for what they are, and I see their bravado and bullying and things like that. And I think I think I know all of us are going to do something incredible. And I'm excited about that. And so Phil and Scott and Guy and Amy and everybody that is here in chat, UFO John Doe, Ryan. I mean, there's so many great people, and Sparky Lady, like all of you, just really freaking rock. Like you guys are intelligent. You ask great questions. I know that a lot of you are doing research behind the scenes that is incredible, and you understand the lay of the land. And so I look forward in a public setting to getting all of us together and then creating a movement, a community, a safe place where we can actually maybe put information, collect information, make sure that information isn't bought and sold to the highest bidder, and do something, like I said, to preserve history. I think we can do that. So I'm just throwing that out there. And Peter would be very excited about that because Peter Shelley's always been after me to try to do something in a more positive way. So I don't know, guys in chat, what are your thoughts? What should we do? How can we move this subject forward? And what
I
would
would be
you?
very supportive of that.
Yeah, no, I know. Thank you. I think all of us would. I think this is what we need. And so, guys, everybody in chat, how would you like to see an organization? I mean, what are some of the things that you would want to see for us to move this subject forward? Because this would be all of us again. So give me your thoughts in chat. I would love to hear that. So see that. So anyway, I will look forward to seeing that in chat. But I wanted to say, Jack, thank you again for being a person that I look up to. I think that you do your work. You don't go out there and put things forward to the public without doing your due diligence, which is very admirable. And I know that there are a few people that don't have um, the background or the appreciation to understand the work that you do, just like with James Carry On. I think people don't understand the incredible work that he's done, but they like to just label him a skeptic and a debunker and things. And you're most certainly not either of those things. You're level headed and you want the truth and you demand the truth from people that are making claims that at the end of the day cannot be verified. So I appreciate you tremendously for that.
Thank you, Erica. I value that. That's meaningful to me, and I appreciate you and the journey you've been on and the contributions you've made as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a trip. I can't wait for the book or something. I don't know, but but I appreciate it, you guys. And so anyway, and thanks for the great comments in chat. So I think that we will have something to talk about, and we will have a great show next week. I want to also just tell you guys that through everything that I've been through, you guys know that I've been kind of through the ringer on a lot of things, and everything is looking up, I hope, and so that's good news. And I want to thank all the people that support UFO Classified, that are Patreons to the show, all the wonderful people that are that have donated tonight to support the show. You guys rock, and I want to thank Mario again and Jack. Thank you. And so, I mean, definitely the UFO Trail is a must. You've got to have that. You've got to read the blog, and you also need to make sure that you get both of Jack's books, which are available on Amazon. So definitely Wayward Sons and The Grace Have Been Framed, two books that are must reads if you are going to, just get into the subject. And Scott, thank you for your best wishes from Belfast, and thank you all of you guys. I love you. I really do. I'm not just saying that to be cheesy. I do. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You guys totally rock. So thank you so much, and I will catch you next week. All right.